Once again, welcome to the final in our summer series for tuition benefit and fellowships. Today is going to be frequently asked questions, and the questions are courtesy of each one of you. Thank you all for submitting your questions over the past couple of weeks, whether in response to my email or through the anonymous Qualtrics survey. We're going to go through rapid fire, and then we will have time at the end for you to ask your questions. So we'll go ahead and just jump right on in. Really important and timely, how early can I enter students into the tuition benefit portal? The answer to this is 6 weeks prior to the start of the semester. And for those of you who have been doing tuition benefit for a while, question that we get now, do job records or EPAFs for assistantships have to be active in order to enter students into the portal? The answer to this used to be yes. You can't enter a TA or an RA until they have an active job record. We've removed that upfront validation, so you can enter students who are going to be RAs and TAs as early as 6 weeks prior to the start of the semester. We simply won't post the tuition benefits to the tuition bill until the job record is active. So you are still able to get them entered in. If they are enrolled, we can get going with GSHIP. The students can go in and sign, and they can feel a little bit more secure about the semester moving along. How is tuition benefit percentage, the 50%, 75%, or 100% determined? This is a great question. When you go into the tuition benefit portal, you do put in 100% TA or 50% TA and 50% RA, or whatever their support is. But that does not indicate the percentage. It does not mean 100% support. That just means 100% of their support comes from being a TA or what have you. We determine the level of benefit based on what you enter in the plan amount. So if a student is earning as the TA $9,000 in wages, you put $9,000 in that plan amount box. That is enough for 100% tuition benefit, and our system knows to post tuition benefits of that level rather than 75% or 50%. So this is why it's very important to accurately project how much, as best as you're able to, how much a student will earn. We, of course, do understand that students leave their jobs early or what have you. And speaking of which, what if my student doesn't earn as much as with their assistantship as we anticipate when entering them into the portal? This is a common question I get right now, but as well as all throughout the semester. This happens when we run our final calculation after the final paycheck of the semester. If your student, let's say $9,000 on an assistantship, but they quit their job halfway through, they only earn $5,000. Well, when we run our final calculation, that will be their tuition benefits will be moved from 100% to 50%. However, we like to be as proactive as possible, because when we final the semester, we will be in the first week of the next semester, and that will mean that there's a transcript and registration hold for that student. So if a student leaves their job early and you know that their wages are going to be low, they quit their job, they're not taking another one, it's, at fall break it's going to be $5,000, let us know when that happens, and we can go in and make adjustments on the back end so the student and the department can work together on getting their fall tuition bill paid before the spring semester, so that it does not create barriers during the first few weeks of the spring semester. What is required for tuition benefits to post to my students' tuition bills? Very easy. First, they have to be entered into the system. That's kind of a given. The students have to sign their tuition benefit approval in CIS. I get probably a dozen inquiries in the first 2 weeks of school of why are my students' benefits not dispersing, and I run their report and see, well, none of them have signed, so that's why. The job record, if your student is supported by an assistantship, the job record would need to be active, and student needs to be enrolled in a minimum of 9 credits for tuition benefit to post. Does not necessarily have to mean 9 graduate credits. We will only pay up to 12 graduate credits, but if a student is taking a repeated course or an undergraduate course, that still counts towards the minimum 9 credits in order for any benefits to post. What does tuition benefit cover? We cover resident tuition and mandatory fees up to 12.0 graduate credits, as well as non-resident tuition waiver for applicable and eligible students. And we say applicable and eligible, so your non-resident domestic and your international students on tuition benefit do benefit from the non-resident waiver. However, there are those cases where the RA 84 credit hour rule will kick in. So that is where a student is working as an RA, payroll's coming off a project or a grant, and they either are hitting or have exceeded 84 cumulative graduate credits. It's cumulative in general, not necessarily in their PhD or even in your program. Cumulative over their lifetime at the University of Utah. At that point, if they are still tuition benefit eligible, we will continue covering resident tuition and mandatory fees. But after 84 credit hours while working as an RA, we will no longer cover the non-resident waiver. So that's why I put applicable and eligible here. So what does tuition benefit not cover? Differential tuition, resident tuition, mandatory fees for graduate credits exceeding 12.0. So if your student is in 12.5, starting with that 0.5 credit, they are responsible for the resident tuition and mandatory fees for that 0.5 and above. Program, lab, and course-specific fees, undergraduate courses, repeated graduate courses outside of those that are mandatory per the curriculum of that degree program, what's in the academic catalog. So this is 90-some% thesis and dissertation credits. We will, of course, pay for repeated dissertation and thesis credits. So 6970 to 6989 and 7970 to 7989 catalog ranges. But other than that, there are a few exceptions here and there. But if your student doesn't do well in a class and there's a probationary agreement with that student in your program that they have to retake it for a higher grade, tuition benefit does not cover that. Your student is working on their research and it's suggested that the student retake a methodology course now that they're working on their data collection, data analysis. That's great. Tuition benefit will not cover that. Undergraduate courses, of course, are not covered by tuition benefit. Audited and continuing education course fees and international student surcharge. So again, anything outside of resident tuition and mandatory fees. My students' benefits haven't posted. What should I do? So this is great. Your student is communicating to you that their benefits have not posted. I do encourage you during the first 2 weeks leading up to the tuition deadline, please encourage your students to look at their tuition bill to make sure their benefits have posted correctly. And any other aid that your department is providing, like if you're covering the differentials, if you're paying the international student surcharge through scholarship administration, that's also a good time to have your students confirm for you that everything is on there as it should, just because sometimes problems happen, and unless they tell you and you tell us, we don't know that there's a systematic problem that needs to be fixed. So, but your students' benefits have not posted. The first thing you'll do is run your report, and then you'll look for irregularities. The most common one for benefits not posting is your student hasn't signed. So you'll see that in the far right column of your report, signed, yes or no. But you'll also look for irregularities in the form of error messages, which you'll see on the left side or right beneath the student's name. And the most common job code error is the job record, whether it's an RA or a TA, is not active, and insufficient credits. So your students might be in 6 credits instead of 9. So you'll review your reports and advise students as necessary. You just need to go in and sign, or we need to add 3 more credits or whatnot so that you're up to the minimum of 9 credits. Usually during the first 2 weeks of school, once you run your report, you're like, oh yes, I'm aware we're still working on the EPAF. I'm aware the student is waiting for that permission code, what have you. But if you review your report and there's no rhyme or reason to what's going on, that's when you would elevate it to the Office of Fellowships and Benefits, and we will then look into that concern. I entered my students this morning. Why haven't the benefits posted? A minimum of 2 processing cycles or 2 days are required for the benefits to fully post, provided that a student meets the requirements. they've signed their agreement, the job record is active if they're on an assistantship, and they are enrolled appropriately. Note that if your student is non-resident, the 2-day process to post the benefits, the non-resident will happen on the first day, and then the resident tuition will happen on the second day. So your students might see, wait, I see some tuition benefit, but not all of it, 2-day cycle, and then it will all post. My student is enrolled they enrolled full-time late. So everything has been entered into tuition benefit, the student signed weeks ago. When will the benefits post? Well, it does take 2 processing cycles for the enrollment piece to go all the way through our system to the tuition office in their code for the posting. Enrollment is the most sensitive part of the changes there. So, and when we say code, this includes my system, HRIS, the registrar's data, and the tuition office. We have all these different pieces that have to piece together in the flow, and it can take a couple days. So for example, if your student gets up to 9 credits on Wednesday, and tuition benefit was entered ages ago, the student is already signed, the job record is active, then their benefits will post on Friday. What is charged to my department's allocation? So the allocation is what you see on the top of your page when you go into tuition benefit. Resident tuition and mandatory fees up to 12.0 graduate credits for students supported as a TA, a GT, a GR, and a GF. That is all that is charged to your allocation. And the maximum that we will charge to your allocation in academic year 23 is $5,170. That is 12 credits of resident tuition and mandatory fees. Is RA tuition charged to our allocation? No, it is not. The resident tuition and mandatory fees for RAs is charged to the returned overhead of the college where the project or grant resides. And so a good example of this nuance of where the grant resides, we might have a biomedical engineering student who's working on a grant where the PI is in the School of Medicine. And so the biomedical engineering students' resident tuition and mandatory fees would be charged to School of Medicine's returned overhead, because that is where the grant resides. Our colleges and departments charge the non-resident waiver, even if the student is on extended tuition benefit. Absolutely not. The non-resident waiver is courtesy of the University of Utah. You will only be charged whether it's your allocation to your returned overhead or your the chart fields that you provide with extended tuition benefit. You will only be charged resident tuition and mandatory fees, never the non-resident waiver. An important note and distinction I do have to make here is, especially when students get to the end of their degree, they may run out of traditional tuition benefit, and the department's thinking, well, I don't want to do extended tuition benefit. My student will have to enroll in 9 credits when I could just pay their tuition through scholarship admin for 3 or 6. The non-resident waiver, being a courtesy, is only through tuition benefit. If you decide to forego extended tuition benefit and simply pay all the tuition on scholarship administration, the student, either the student or the department, will be responsible for the non-resident tuition. So the waiver is only through extended tuition benefit or traditional tuition benefit. Who determines our tuition benefit allocation? So our being, your department, tuition benefit allocations are provided by the University of Utah to each college and school. Your dean or their designee determines the distribution of the resources among the different departments. So School of Medicine dean will determine what all the departments in School of Medicine receive. The College of Humanities dean will do the exact same, or their designees, quite frequently the college finance director or finance dean. Requests for a higher distribution of tuition benefit allocation should be taken to the dean, whether that's by you, your director of grad studies, or your department chair. And especially if there's a strategic plan in place for increasing your enrollment or whatnot, that's good to be communicated upward to your dean. The dean will then determine if they redistribute the tuition benefit allocation resources among departments. And I do want to say that is frequent when that is redistributed among different departments throughout the school year. And the dean will then determine, oh, we don't have anything to redistribute for next year, so we need to take this as part of our annual budget cycle request. What if we run out of tuition benefit allocation? Again, you'll go to your dean's office and see if they can redistribute some allocation to your department. Or secondly, extended tuition benefit is an option. My student is non-resident and on tuition benefit. Why are they charged non-resident tuition when they should be charged resident tuition? This is a common myth I've been dealing with here in the year and a half that I've been in tuition benefit. The answer to this is students are billed according to their residency status, no matter what. So if your student is non-resident, domestic, if they're international, they will always be charged as a non-resident student or an international student. However, if they are eligible and is applicable through tuition benefit, they will receive on top of resident tuition and mandatory fees, the non-resident waiver that pays the non-resident portion. So if your non-resident student comes to you and says, why am I charged resident? Why am I charged non-resident instead of resident? It's because they're a non-resident student and they will then benefit from the non-resident waiver. If my student was approved for a COVID extension or TA tuition benefit extension, do we still have to support the student? This is, especially right now where we're doing COVID petitions, this is a question that we do get a lot of, is you're just giving us some extra tuition support for our student, right? No, you still have to support your student on an assistantship and or fellowship up to the appropriate benefit level, 50%, 75%, or 100%. Same as you would without an extension, or if they were on extended tuition benefit. Additionally, the department must have allocation to cover the tuition benefit costs for TA, GT, GR, and GF, or if it's an RA, the benefit cost, the resident tuition mandatory fees is charged to the returned overhead. What is the difference between a course drop and a course withdraw? This is something that I've observed. We sometimes use these terms interchangeably, drop, withdraw, but there's a significant difference between the two, particularly in how it will impact tuition benefit. So when a student removes a course from their active enrollment prior to the add drop deadline, which is the tuition deadline, for fall semester, that will be the second Friday of the semester, they are not charged for the course and the class does not appear on their transcript. This is a drop. If a student removes a course from their active enrollment after the add drop deadline, they are responsible for the cost of that course and the course will appear on their transcript, and that is called a withdraw. So a very big difference between the two. And our next question is, how will this impact a student with tuition benefit if they withdraw? Excellent question. If your student has a minimum of 9 credits after of active enrollment after the withdrawal, so let's say they're in 12 credits, but they withdraw from 3 credits, that's still a minimum of 9 credits, and tuition benefit will cover those 9 credits as usual. And the student will only be responsible for the withdrawn credit or credits. If a student's active enrollment falls below 9 credits, so let's say the student's a 9 and they withdraw from 3, taking them down to 6 credits of enrollment, then tuition benefit will be removed completely because they're not in 9 credits of active enrollment, and the student will be responsible for the entirety of the bill. When this happens, if you have a student who's withdrawing and you have a question about tuition benefit, feel free to reach out to me specifically about your student situation, and I can look and give you some specific advisement. But sometimes when a student withdraws from a course and they fall below, if they're in thesis or dissertation or independent study, sometimes a department will choose to add 3 more dissertation credits just so that that student can have tuition benefit for everything other than the withdrawn course. That is also an option when a student falls below 9 credits as a result of a withdrawal. We have money on a grant. So is this extended tuition benefit? The clear and definitive answer here is, well, it depends. Very clear and definitive, I know. So firstly, funding on a grant must be a budgeted line item. This is something that we run into. PI saying there's money on the grant, charge it to the grant. Well, there's money on the grant, but then there's tuition budgeted line item. Must be a budgeted line item for projects. If you are using an activity for extended tuition benefit, no need to budget a line item because it's an activity. And secondly, the funding must be enough to cover the resident tuition and mandatory fees, which again, for this coming year, will be a maximum of $5,170 per student per semester. But if your student is in 9 credits, it will be more around the $4,400 mark. So if yes to the above, tuition is budgeted onto that grant, onto that project, and there's enough money on that budgeted tuition line to cover the entirety of the resident tuition and mandatory fees, absolutely go ahead and put that student on extended tuition benefit. And you'll enter the chart field or chart fields if there's more than one at that time of entry. But let's say there's only $1,000 budgeted on there, then that is not extended tuition benefit. If you need to pay that $1,000, if you need to be paying that to get off the grant, we will absolutely take that and put that towards the tuition benefit pool, but that is not extended tuition benefit. And this was not a question submitted, but it's pertinent to this, so I'll go ahead and add this in. We do not do fractional tuition benefit, where a student is half extended and half traditional. Terms are whole and not half terms of eligibility, like a semester and a half of traditional left. We don't do that. You're either on extended tuition benefit or you're not. There's no halfway in the middle. If using the extended tuition benefit option, can I spread the costs over more than one chart field? Absolutely. You can enter, you can use multiple chart fields. You'll simply indicate the percentage that is charged to each chart field. And on the entry page, there will be a little plus button right next to the chart field line, and you just hit plus for every chart field that you need. And you would indicate like 50% to this chart field, 50% to this chart field, or what have you. My student is starting their assistantship a couple weeks early. Does this mean I can spread the 100% minimum support over 10 paychecks instead of the 9 paychecks of the semester? Absolutely not. Students are welcome to start their jobs early, but wages will only count when they are earned during that semester, and it'll only count towards tuition benefit minimum support when it's earned during that semester. And the breakdown is as follows: August 16th through December 31st for fall, January 1st and May 15th for spring, and May 16th to August 15th for summer. So if your student starts working August 1st, a couple days ago, and they're going to be on tuition benefit this fall, their wages will not count towards tuition benefit for the fall semester until August 16th. What does GSHIP, or the Graduate Subsidized Health Insurance Plan, cover? The subsidized health insurance, which is 80% subsidized, student is responsible for the 20%, includes medical coverage, which is through United Healthcare Student Resources, and dental and vision coverage, which is through EMI. And we do have a wonderful colleague here today, Janine from EMI. So when we get to the open Q&A, if you have an EMI question, she is going to be more than happy to take your questions and provide some responses. Can students on GSHIP opt into, for example, the vision and dental, but not the medical? No, GSHIP covers medical, vision, and dental for all participating students who are on the subsidized health insurance plan. But the department wants to provide vision and dental. You can enroll the student in vision and dental directly from EMI for that student. For example, if a student has medical coverage elsewhere, but not vision and dental, that is a cost-effective way. The department simply enrolling the student directly through department paid insurance through EMI. Who is eligible for the subsidized health insurance? Students supported by assistantships, TA, GT, GR, and RA with 100% benefit are eligible. So students who are a TA but only earning $5,000 at the 50% tuition benefit level, they're not eligible. GFs are not eligible. I think that's actually the next question. So graduate fellows are not eligible. That is correct. GFs are not eligible for the subsidized plan. However, departments can enroll the student in department paid insurance, or the fellows can independently purchase the student insurance plan. And we have here the website for the medical coverage, uhcsr.com/Utah, and that will take you to the plan information. So any student who's on the United medical coverage can look at the plan info there as well. What are the coverage dates? Fall semester coverage for GSHIP is August 16th through December 31st. And spring semester coverage is January 1st through August 15th. So spring is a little bit more costly than fall because it covers January through halfway through August, whereas fall semester is just fall semester. Spring GSHIP includes the summer, but my student graduates in the spring. Will their coverage be canceled? No. Students with spring GSHIP maintain their summer coverage because it's paid for already, regardless of if they enroll during the summer. So even if they're not enrolled, they've got the coverage. Or if they've separated from the university, if they transfer away, if they, fingers crossed this does not happen to any of your students, if they drop out, or if they graduate, they will still have that coverage through August 15th. How do students pay their 20% premium? The 20% premium will be added to students' tuition bills after the campus census, which is when you are no longer able to enter a student into tuition benefit and mark subsidized health insurance. Departments wishing to cover this cost, the student's 20% premium for subsidized health insurance, should do so through scholarship administration, either in general, or you can create an item type that is insurance specific. How can I ensure continuous coverage of insurance? Proactively follow these 3 steps. You need to enter your student into the tuition benefit portal early. And as we saw from the first slide, and as I've mentioned many times, as early as 6 weeks early, indicating on that entry that the student is opting into GSHIP. The student must sign their approval when they go into CIS and sign their tuition benefit approval. They will say sign with insurance, meaning subsidized health insurance. Students must then be enrolled in courses. Minimum of 3 credits, that's per our contract. We will not enroll a student in GSHIP if they are not in a minimum of 3 credits, but ideally your students will be enrolling full-time early. Students who are enrolled, we enroll students on a rolling basis. So starting at 4 or 5 weeks prior to the semester, we start enrolling students every week based on what you enter and then the student signing and enrolling. So we do work very hard on our side to ensure that students have continuous coverage as best as able. But it is a team effort here between your office and my office. And we run into this particularly in January. I'm amazed at how many students have dental appointments the first week of school or the first week of January before school starts. And then in the dogs meeting, we do, I do get a lot of directors of grad studies saying, why is this not happening? Why is my student having a break in coverage? When directors of grad studies come to me saying, our students are being messed with here, they need their continuous coverage, but you're not providing it, I do run a report that has the date of when students are entered, and I provide that for your director of grad studies so they know when students are entered in. And I just got a message, we actually only enroll students when they are at the 9 credit for GSHIP, because that is a GSHIP requirement, but our contract for students who choose to purchase the plan is 3 credits. Okay, now for some fellowship questions here. And the fellowship questions are around UTAs, the University Teaching Assistant, and GRF, the University Graduate Research Fellows, because these are the opportunities that all students, regardless of their discipline, are eligible for. Question, do UTAs and GRFs have tuition covered? If they have remaining tuition benefit eligibility, the department coordinator should enter them into tuition benefit as a TA or GRF. Their TA wages can count towards their tuition benefit minimum support, and it is enough for 100% benefit, and their GRF fellowship is enough for 100% benefit and count towards that department's entering of tuition benefit. If the student does not have any remaining eligibility, the departments can always utilize extended tuition benefit. Otherwise, UTA and GRF does not cover tuition separately from remaining tuition benefit eligibility. When I extend the offers of UTA and GRF to the students, that is stated directly in the offer letter, so the students see that up front, if you have tuition benefit eligibility or if you don't. How many UTA and GRF candidates can we support? Each department can endorse a maximum of 2 candidates for each the UTA and GRF. So 4 from your department total, 2 for UTA, 2 for GRF. Endorsements come from the chair or the chair's designee. Sometimes a member of faculty is assigned to, like a chair of the student support committee, for example, or director of grad studies is assigned by the chair to manage the endorsements. Students need to know who the endorsement is coming from, because on the application, they will indicate the email address of the chair or whomever is designated. If you have a large number of students who are interested in applying for the UTA and or the GRF, departments can institute their own vetting process. So we leave that to departments to determine how they want to manage that internally, and then 2 candidates for each of the awards sent into the pool. How competitive are the UTA and the GRF? Well, this depends on how many departments champion candidates through the process here. Here's some statistics from the last application cycle. 22 departments, so this is less than half of the eligible departments, endorsed a total of 29 candidates for the UTA last year. So we had approximately a 40% awarding rate. The GRF, 39 departments, so about 60-ish%, 2/3 of eligible departments endorsed 63 candidates for the GRF. And we had approximately a 30% awarding rate. We have a lot of departments who are not putting forward any candidates, period. And we've got departments who are only endorsing 1 candidate for each of those. I would love to see a greater diversity among students from all corners of campus, from all disciplines, as well as departments maximizing this opportunity as best as they are able. And of course, if you have questions about these awards and the endorsement process and such, you can reach out to me directly. How do students apply for these fellowships? Students will apply through Academic Works, which is the University of Utah's central application system. Applications will open in September, as early as possible, depending on when the scholarship office opens the portal for next application year. And then the UTA and the GRF applications must be submitted by December 16th, and endorsements and recommendations are due by December 23rd. And I'll be sending out to directors of grad studies and coordinators and grad advisors 1-page information sheets on these awards as soon as possible. And of course, any questions in general throughout the year, please reach out to me directly. There's my direct email there, but if it's tuition benefit related, please email the tuition benefit inbox, especially during busy times of year like fall start. We pay more attention to the tuition benefit inbox than we do the our personal emails. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing. We already have questions in the inbox. So this is your time for questions, and we will stay on as long as you have questions. So you can go ahead and enter them into the chat box or raise your hand and unmute yourself. So we'll go ahead with Marcy's question. Thank you, Marcy. I'm following up regarding the 3 credit hour requirement for health insurance for the Q&A. I have a student no longer eligible for tuition benefit. She is a domestic Utah resident, so paying tuition via scholarship administration is the best option compared to XTBP. However, the department will continue to pay the health and dental insurance. Will the student be required to be enrolled in 3 credits? Yes, your student will be required to, any student who is on the insurance plans that are associated with GSHIP the United Healthcare and the EMI must be in 3 credits minimum. GSHIP, the subsidized part, requires 9 credits, but your student must be in a minimum of 3 credits. Okay, Marilyn.
Thank you, Matthew.
Yes.
Hi, it's Jen. I just sent out, hi, everybody. I just sent out the United Healthcare forms this week. There is an option for continuation of coverage. That is for a student that's been enrolled for the prior 3 months with United Healthcare. I don't know if continuation of coverage is something that the department can pay or if the student needs to pay that. So Marcy, if you want to shoot me an email on that, and then I can get with our United Healthcare rep if that option is going to be better if the student doesn't need to take any credits.
Okay. Thank you, Jen. Marilyn, just to double check, if a student is being hired as an RA on a grant, the payroll is coming off a grant, but the tuition has not been budgeted on the grant, I will go ahead and place them on the traditional tuition benefit and not extended. Correct. Yes, Marilyn, that is correct. The student has been included in our estimate for tuition benefit allocation. So if they are an RA and their tuition benefit or their wages are coming off the grant, off the project, it won't count towards your allocation. It'll be charged to the college's returned overhead. So you don't need to worry about that. I do encourage anyone who's in this situation where the tuition has not been budgeted on the grant, just run that by your grants officer. Can it be budgeted on? A lot of times it was not planned from when the grant was proposed and first received, but it can be adjusted later on when asked, and sometimes it can't. But it never hurts to ask. So if you do enter a student in as an RA for traditional tuition benefit, and you later find out, wait a minute, we can actually put them on extended tuition benefit, shoot us an email and we will, of course, gladly work with you to take your money. Thank you for your question, Marilyn.
On a footnote on that, there is a timing that we have to follow. And if you're contacting our office in December and tuition posted in September, most likely that information, that transfer will have to happen as a cost transfer. We only have a certain window in order to move funds, especially if you're contacting us in the spring to move fall. That is going to have to be done as a cost transfer. So we'll work with your department to determine if it's something our office initiates or if it's something that we provide you with the information and somebody within your department will process the cost transfer.
Okay. Basic question. Thank you, Katie. In the plan amount box on tuition benefit page, is plan amount the anticipated support? Yes, the plan amount is the anticipated support. And if you're providing a fellowship and it's being paid out in the first week of the semester, that's pretty easy to gauge. But if it's wages, it's in good faith. We anticipate the student working the entire semester. So yes, the plan amount anticipated support. Also, in the past, the anticipated support is different for each of our students, even though they are all paid the same. You'll enter what is required for your student or what is correct for your students. Some departments, the students are all being paid, let's say $9,000 as an RA. Every student is receiving that. There are other departments where each student is on a separate wage based on length in program, their educational background. Are they a first-year PhD or a fifth-year PhD versus a first-year master's student? There are a number of different combinations. So you'll just put what is correct for your individual student when entering them. Did that answer your question, Katie?
Yeah, it did. So I think what's happened in the past is people have just put in whatever was put in the year before, but all of our students are paid the same. So I'm fine to just standardize it, right? There's no, I mean, they're all 0.5 FTE. Everyone's paid the same. So I can just change it from what's been in years past.
Yeah, just change it to whatever it is now.
Okay, thanks so much.
Absolutely. Joe, yes, you are correct. The student is entered as a GF, not a GR. Because they're a fellow rather than on payroll. Corey, have I missed an updated 22-23 summary brochure or info sheet from EMI? Thank you, Jen. let her know, and she can provide you with the details that you need. Okay, so we've gone through the chat questions. Go ahead and continue putting your questions or concerns in the chat box. Otherwise, you can also raise your hand and unmute yourself if you have a question you'd like to bring forward. Carly, welcome to the table, Carly.
Hey, I was just going to put this in the chat. I will just go ahead and say it. I just wanted to make sure. I think in the past year done double coverage for professional students. I know that they have to be enrolled in insurance, but there are twofold with this. So we do have international to our TAs, and then also international students who are on fellowship. So my question is, when I'm entering in international students who are TA, should I also make sure that I include the GSHIP enrollment tuition benefit?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, if your students, TA, RA, what have you, if your students are international, if they are on F1 or J1 visa, the university automatically enrolls them into the non-subsidized plan per federal requirement for insurance. But if your student is on tuition benefit and they are eligible for the subsidized health insurance, you must click that box or we will not subsidize their insurance.
Okay. And then I guess the second one too is that because I'm very, we might have double enrolled them or something, but I'm always just nervous that they're not going to have insurance when they're supposed to have it. But for those fellowship students who they're automatically enrolled by the school, the department, we cover their 50% of their insurances. And so usually with fellow students, I enroll them with the spreadsheet. I'm just curious then, if they're automatically enrolled, how it is that we make sure that their insurance is paid, because we normally pay by invoice rather than through scholarship admin. So students, I think Jen don't need to enter them on the sheet, but I just wanted to double check and make sure that that's correct if we're paying for them through department coverage.
Go ahead, Jen.
Where I'm at, it's very hot and humid right now, so I'm thinking it's playing with my internet. So Carly, I didn't catch most of that question, but if you have a GF who's an international student,
yeah,
pay, and I heard you pay 80%.
Yes.
You can pay that 80% through scholarship admin.
Okay.
And then that will leave 20% for the student.
So I'm wondering, because normally what we do is we pay it an invoice before. Should I just have then the
your international students shouldn't,
international ones just go through scholarship admin?
Well, your international students, you don't need to enroll them.
Yeah.
So they won't be on your bill because you didn't enroll them.
Okay.
So go ahead and enter a scholarship for 80%.
Okay.
And if you can't find those numbers, shoot me an email. For your domestic students,
we'll enroll those ones.
You enroll those with the United Healthcare spreadsheet, and you'll enroll them in the EMI portal, because we request that that departments offer the same benefits that we would if they were GSHIP eligible. Now, if you're only paying 80% of those students, your department's going to need to have a mechanism to collect that 20%.
Yeah, we do with our domestic. They just pay via check.
Yes, exactly.
I just think that it's probably easier to separate the two because
so much easier.
Okay.
Because what happens is when you enroll them yourself, EMI or in United Healthcare is going to go, oh, what insurance location?
Yeah.
So they might switch it to your insurance location, but there's no automatic mechanism to have that international student fee removed from that student's bill.
Yeah, and I think that that's what we've been to before. And the person prior in this position, I had looked over the spreadsheets and had noticed the international students were enrolled on the spreadsheet. So I think it was just a confusion of the two, that they don't need that. So.
It is. Yeah, we've repeated this thing. It is.
Yeah.
You
That's
guys
good
do
to
it
know.
once a year.
That's
You
less
do
work.
it once a year.
Yeah.
So if an international student, you don't need to enroll them with United Healthcare, enter what you pay in scholarship admin. And I have, my favorite F word is flow chart. We actually have a flow chart on that. So it was in our GSHIP presentation. So
Okay.
I'll find that and resend that to you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Jen.
Okay.
And really quickly, because Katie had a similar question, our department pays the 20% premium for the insurance. How do we make sure it is not charged to the students? Do we have to pay it via scholarship admin? Yes, you'll pay it via scholarship admin, but it will be charged to the students. Just let your students know that you will be covering that charge. And then right now you can go ahead and put it in scholarship admin. It just will not pay anything until the charge hits their account. So be proactive about it, and that will that'll make sure it's paid as quickly as the charge is added to the student's bill.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Yep. Tom, welcome to our coordinator meeting.
Hi, I have a question about the sort of the employment fraction that a student can have while being supported by TBP. My understanding is there's a sort of a recommended and a sort of a hard sort of limit on that. Is that right? That one could be up to 0.74 or something like that. It'd still be on TBP.
With tuition benefits, it is our recommendation. This is outlined in our guidelines that a student should not be working more than 0.5 FTE for 100% benefit, 15 hours a week for 75, 10 hours a week for 50% tuition benefit. So that's for earning their support for tuition benefit. The 0.74 FTE is any employment under the umbrella of the university. So if your student is working 20 hours a week as a TA, but then they're also working, they're moonlighting at the hospital, that counts towards their FTE. And as soon as they exceed 0.74, their benefits are cut.
Okay, so suppose a student there's sort of a particular unusual opportunity that's arisen this semester that might put a student above 0.5, but well below 0.74, and all of that would be in our department. Is that allowable? Do I need to petition?
Yeah, I mean, we do have students who go above 0.5. Okay. Our system only looks at the 0.74 hard cutoff.
Okay, and then secondly, relatedly, our graduate coordinator has taken a new position, and we're hiring today and we're interviewing today and tomorrow. And I wonder, is there a training process or a place to go for training materials? I have not been through this before, so.
Absolutely. As soon as you have someone on board and you're ready for them to be trained, either reach out to me or have them reach out to me, and I do a one-on-one training.
Okay. And
you're welcome to come to that too if you have questions and want to learn more about the process.
Okay, that's great. Thanks a lot.
Of course. Thank you for joining us, Tom. Okay, Nancy, for RAs on XTVP, the grant is billed for the tuition only and not the insurance, correct? Those RAs are eligible for GSHIP, correct? Yes, RAs who are supported at the 100% tuition benefit level are eligible for GSHIP, and the cost follows the effort. So generally grants that have payroll on it will have a benefits line budgeted already in there. It's usually 8 to 11% of the grant. So the GSHIP would be charged to that. In the case that there is concerns about the cost of it, the department would just handle that internally of where to move that charge once that comes across the project. Jill, we love the GSHIP student letter. Do we plan to update it and send it to us again this year, or did it already go out? Jen, do you have a response for that? The student letter?
Jill, can you send that to me? I'll update it and I'll send it out.
Okay, I'll send you the copy I have.
That would be great.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you both.
Thanks.
Corey, how does the system know how to interpret repeated courses, e.g. for better grade, or whether if it's required repeated course? That's an excellent question. Our our code is simply magical and all-knowing. So we have built into the code the hard repeats, like 7970 to 7989, 69, 70, 69, 89. Those are without a question allowable for repeat. So we have that baked into the code. We are working on, and this is way down the road, a more refined process of this. But if you have a student who has to take, like I was dealing with a program where the student has to take the exact same French class, I think 4 times for their degree. And it is in the academic catalog, this class has to be taken so many times or so many credits of this. So when tuition benefit doesn't cover that, they simply send me a copy of that and I push that through. So otherwise, if you have a special course in your program that that course number like 62, 82, whatever is required to be repeated, we don't necessarily put 62, 82 in our code because that might not be something for all the other programs out there. So we would just deal with those in one-off situations. But generally by this point, if you've not noticed it, it might not be a problem.
That's, I mean, I'm not trying to make a problem that doesn't exist, but we do have required repeated seminars, 2 of them, and they've never been kicked out before. But we also, before I started, people would have to, in order to address this repeated course problem, have to register under a different course number. But I'm not doing that. I'm just having people do what we're requiring that we express in the academic handbook and in our program handbook. Okay, and so far so good.
Yeah, so go ahead, you know, if you wouldn't mind, Corey, would you send me a student example, a unit from maybe spring, this past spring, and in the email say these are the courses that they've taken already that were repeated, and we can just do a little extra digging to make sure 100% that your students are okay. By this point, we would know if there was a problem, but I just want to know for you there.
Okay. Thanks.
Absolutely. Nancy, the maximum of 5170 that you mentioned, is that the total for both fall and spring or combined, or is it the max 1034 for both semesters? That the 5170 is per semester. So 5170 is graduate tuition, resident tuition, and mandatory fees for up to 12 graduate credits for each semester. So $10,034 maximum between fall and spring. Okay, and then summer, if your students do utilize tuition benefit during the summer will cover a maximum of 12 or 6 credits, depending on your student's eligibility during the summer. And so that 5170 is not reflective of summer, but summer is an anomaly anyway. Okay, any other questions, raised hands or questions in the chat box? We'll go ahead and take a minute and enjoy.
I was going to raise my hand.
Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
I just wanted to remind everybody, and it kind of goes back up to, I think it was Nancy's question up top. When you enroll a student or if a student elects or is eligible for GSHIP, 80% of that premium will be charged to the benefit account of that student's payroll chart field. So that would mean that if you have a TA, those are usually paid from 1001 funds. There's a TA benefit pool that'll offset that expense. For anybody else that's being paid from something other than a 1001 fund, that is a true cost to that department. And that's why on all our outreach materials, it says that there must be money allowed or money set aside, like a 5,000 fund benefit pool or funds available to cover that expense. So I just wanted to reiterate that. That 80% of the premium is charged back via an account that ties with the student's chart field.
Perfect, thank you. And I don't see any additional questions in the chat box or any raised hands. So we'll go ahead and stop the recording and thank everyone. I thank you all for joining us